Hi students, welcome back. Once again, I am Ma'am Dea El Mundo, and our topic for today is all about motion, particularly displacement and velocity. To start with, here are our learning competencies. First is to explain the difference between distance and displacement in everyday situations in relation to a reference point. And second, distinguish between speed and velocity using the concept of vectors. As for our learning objectives, we want to define motion, discuss the concept of motion in other scientific domains, and solve problems involving motion such as distance, displacement, speed, and velocity. Let's start with the concept of motion. Motion is a fundamental concept in physics that helps us understand how objects change their positions relative to other objects or reference points. Now, what is a reference point? A reference point is any point in space that we use to compare or measure the position and motion of other things. Ano nga ba ang reference point? Whenever we are discussing motion, we need to identify the reference point. So halimbawa, sinabi natin, the car has a distance of 5 meters. Is that measured from the tree? Is that measured from the house? Or baka naman measured siya from the lamppost. Pwede rin sa swing. So we have to be able to identify the reference point for us to be able to better identify or describe the motion of the object, or in this case, the car. Now, when speaking about reference points, it is important for us to go back to our concept of the cardinal directions, because sometimes the movement would be along the horizontal axis, or sometimes the movement would be along the vertical axis. So it's important for us to identify where is the north, where is the south, where is the east, and where is the west. So tandaan po natin kapag towards the east ang movement, just like what we have discussed in vectors last time, it is positive, horizontal direction. On the other hand, kapag west naman po siya, it is a negative horizontal direction. Similarly, if the object is moving up, then that direction is positive, while if the object is moving down, then the motion is considered to be negative. Okay po? Ngayon, let's move on with the concept of distance and displacement. How are they different from one another? So first of all, distance denotes the length of the path taken by a moving object. However, on the other hand, displacement is the shortest span between the initial and final positions. Kaya po yung symbol ng distance ay D lang, tapos si displacement naman may arrow po, which means ito po ay vector. Yung triangle naman po or delta, it means change. So, ibig sabihin, for the case of displacement, we have to identify the initial and final values of the physical quantity that we are using to describe the motion. So, para mas maintindihan natin, meron po tayong drawing dito. Remember students that distance is a scalar while displacement is a vector quantity. Ano nga ba ulit pagkakaiba ng scalar sa vector kung naalala nyo pa po? Okay, correct. So when we say scalar quantity, these are physical quantities that only have magnitude in them. While vector quantities have both magnitude and direction. So, sabi nga kanina, pag sinabi nating distance, it is the length of the path taken by a moving object. Whereas kapag displacement naman, shortest span siya between the initial point and the final point. So for example, ito pong lalaki sa picture. Nakita po natin dito sa green path niya. Yan po yung kanyang nilakad or trinaverse na path from start to end. Now, if we measure the total length of that path, then that would give us the distance traveled by the man. However, if we only want the displacement, then we only consider the starting and the end point. So therefore, if we consider the starting and the end point, we only draw a straight line from the start to the end point. So shorter po yung length ng displacement kaysa sa distance. But not all the time, of course. Usually, displacement is shorter than distance. So another example. Okay, dito naman po, makita po natin that there is a boy in his bicycle that first goes to his house coming from point A. He goes to point B, which is a house, traveling for a distance of 4 meters. And then after that, travels to the tree with a distance of 3 meters. So if we want to find the total distance traveled by the boy, then we have to take note of the total length of the path he traversed. So that is 4 meters plus 3 meters is equal to 7 meters. However, if we are after the displacement of the boy, then we only get the shortest distance or the single line distance from points A to C. A is the initial point or the initial position, while C is the final position. So according to our drawing, that is equivalent to a length of 5 meters. So therefore, the displacement here is 5 meters. Okay, so last example. Kanina naririnig nyo, meron na ako mga binanggit na units. So for distance and displacement, since they are both quantities related to length, then we use units for length. The common units are inches, feet, centimeters, kilometers, and miles. Of course, we use the unit appropriate for a certain distance or displacement. Siyempre, kung mas malayo yung mga distances, like for example, distances in between cities, then we usually use kilometers or miles. However, if we are talking about lengths that are smaller, we can use centimeters, inches, or the feet. Remember, students, that the standard unit for distance is the meter. That's why in most examples, you will notice that we are using meters or the one with symbol M. So another example here is this one. Okay po, medyo maraming dinaanan yung object from point A to point B. So kung nakita natin, you have north, east, and then north. If you want to know the distance traveled by the object from point A to B, then we have to know the distance or the length of this path, add to the length of this path, then also to the lengths of these paths. The total length would give you the distance traveled. However, if we want the displacement, then we only consider the straight line distance between A and B, and that is given by the red line. So whatever the length of the red line, that would be the displacement of the object. Ganon din po dito sa isang picture pa po rito, yung lalaking nagmomotor from house to the factory. So he traveled 200 meters from his house to the factory. However, the displacement is 120 meters. Kaya nga lang, class, kasi iisipin natin, meron naman palang displacement eh. Bakit hindi na lang doon laging dumaan? Mas maikli naman yon. It's not always a good choice to pass by the displacement. Just like in this picture, yung distance traveled ng nagmomotor na lalaki ay umikot siya dun sa gilid ng bundok. Kasi yun yung mas appropriate na daanan. Siyempre, hindi naman tayo makakatagos directly sa bundok. So, ibig sabihin, sometimes you look for the distance, sometimes you look for the displacement. It depends on the situation. Now, let's say that you have a man that initially is at point A, and then he runs towards point C, and then afterwards, he runs and stops at point B. So we are given the distances for point A to point C, that is 40 meters, while from point B to point C or C to B, that is 20 meters. So the first question is, what is the total distance traveled by the man? So for the total distance traveled, we need to add or take into account the total length of the path traveled by the man. Sabi nga natin kanina, tumakbo siya from point A to point C. So that is 40 meters plus from point C to point B, that is 20 meters. So therefore, the distance traveled by the man is 40 meters plus 20 meters or 60 meters. Next, what is the displacement? So if the total distance is 60 meters, then what is the man's displacement? Okay, very good. That is 20 meters. But remember that displacement is a vector. So therefore, we need to include the direction. So it is 20 meters east because we want to consider the initial and final positions. The initial position is at point A, while the final position is at point B. So that gives us the eastward or east direction. Also, since at point A that is considered as your 0 and at point B that is 20 meters, then that would give us 20 meters for the magnitude. So you see the displacement is shorter here compared to distance. However, again, hindi ito lagi yung case. May mga times na distance is equal to displacement. So, it depends on the situation. Okay, so next, let's try a sample problem. Okay, so again, a boy walks 6 meters to the right. He then walks 5 meters to the left. Letter A, what is the total distance he traveled? And letter B, what is his displacement? Let's start with the given quantities. So, ano ba yung mga given natin dito? Given. Okay, so sabi natin kanina, the boy walks 6 meters to the right. So, therefore, DI, okay, is equal to 6 meters right. Okay, and then, after that, he walked 5 meters to the left. Now, if you remember the cardinal directions, okay, the DI would be positive 6 meters kasi towards the right siya, while the DF is negative 5 meters. So, anong hinahanap natin? So, we are looking for the total distance and the displacement. Okay po? So, paano natin isosolve? So, sabi nga kanina, if we are looking for distance, then we only get the total length of the path. So, therefore, we drop the signs. We only need the absolute values or the positive values of the distances. So, therefore, okay, if we want the total distance, then we add 6 meters and 5 meters. And that would give us 11 meters. So, dahil distance siya, wala siyang direction. So, next, let's look for the displacement. So, again, the displacement is the shortest straight line distance between the initial position and the final position. Kaya meron tayong mga reference points. So, therefore, what we need to do there is to get the vector sum. So, pag sinabing vector sum, we have to consider the signs. Okay, 6 meters plus negative 5 meters. That is equal to 1 meter. At dahil positive siya, that is rightwards. Okay, pasensya na po sa sulat ko. So, pag drawing natin yan, okay, so for example, nandito po yung ating initial position. So, ang ginawa po ay nag-walk siya towards the right for 6 meters. And then, bumalik siya towards the left. Okay, for 5 meters. So, therefore, what we are looking for is this, the green one. So, that is your 1 meter to the right. Okay, clear po tayo sa problem number 1. Let's go to problem number 2. Oh, by the way, we have questions here. Are your answers to A and B the same? Explain your answer. Obviously, they are not the same. Okay, why? For letter A, our answer is 11 meters, while for letter B, our answer is 1 meter. And we also have the direction. Kasi, distance is a scalar while displacement is a vector. Okay po? So, let's go now to number 2. A toy car travels in a circular path of a radius of 1 meter. So, letter A, what is the distance traveled by the toy car? And letter B, what is his displacement covered by the toy car in one circular path? Okay po, so drawing po natin yan. So, we have toy car traveling a circular path. So, let's say this is your circle. Okay po, let's say that is our circular path. And then, sabi po dun sa ating question, the radius of the path is 1 meter. Ano nga ba ang radius? Pag sinabi nating radius, that is the distance from the center, okay, towards the circle. So, that is 1 meter. Now, we are asked for the distance traveled by the toy car. So, if the toy car will travel the whole circular path, so dapat, pag ganito ang kanyang movement, no? So, let's say, nag-start siya rito, gagalaw siya, papunta rito. Okay, and then, pabalik po siya rito. So, ano ang nire-represent nun? That is represented by the, okay, circumference of the circle. And what is the formula for the circumference of the circle? The formula for the circumference of the circle will give us, okay, the total distance. And that is equal to 2 pi r. So, ano ba yung value ng pi? 3.1416, but then we'll use 3.14 for now. And then the distance is 1 meter. So, therefore, okay, that is 6.28 meters. So, if the radius of the circle is 1 meter, then the car would travel 6.28 meters around that circle. So, for the next question, we are looking for the displacement. Now, remember that the displacement is the difference between the final and the initial positions. However, if you will notice, bumalik lang po si car sa initial position niya. Kasi umikot siya ng buo, diba? So, therefore, the initial position is equal to the final position. And that gives us a value of 0 for the displacement. So you see, class, whenever an object goes back to its original position, then the displacement is equal to 0. However, the distance is non-zero kasi nag-travel pa rin siya eh. Again, for distance, we have to consider the whole path traversed by the object. Okay po? So next, let's move on with speed and velocity. So just like distance and displacement, we have also scalar and vector quantities in this set. So speed is a scalar quantity and is defined as a distance traveled by time. So bakit siya naging scalar? Kasi you have a scalar divided by another scalar. So you have distance and time. So therefore, the answer would also be a scalar. So again, speed is equal to distance divided by time. Whereas, velocity is a vector quantity. So this time, instead of distance divided by time, you have displacement over time. Since displacement is a vector, then velocity would also be a vector. So medyo ano lang po, no, medyo marami lang arrows po dito sa ating mga symbols. But that only gives us an idea whether a quantity is a scalar or a vector. Also remember that the standard unit for both speed and velocity is a meter per second or m per s. Okay po? So sabi nga natin kanina, velocity is a vector quantity. Therefore, velocity should have directions. Now, ano naman po yung tinatawag natin na instantaneous speed or velocity? Pag sinabi nating instantaneous speed, it is the speed at a particular instant or particular moment. However, pag sinabi namang instantaneous velocity, then that is instantaneous speed but you add the direction because velocity is again a vector. So bakit tayo may ganyang picture sa baba? That is called a speedometer. So for those who have cars or have seen cars, meron pong ganyan sa harap ng driver's seat for the driver to be able to monitor his or her speed at that instant. Ano naman yung average speed or velocity? Pag sinabi nating average speed, then we have to compute the total distance and divide it by the total time elapsed to cover that distance. On the other hand, pag sinabi naman pong average velocity, that is the rate of change of displacement. So therefore, we can compute it from the initial and final velocities. We can divide them by 2. Or we can also check or get the rate of change of displacement. So you have displacement divided by time. So first question, what is the average speed of a person who runs 100 meters in 30 seconds? So we are given the distance traveled by the person and also the time elapsed to cover that distance. Since we are looking for the average speed, then ito lang po yung mga kailangan natin na mga quantities. So sulat po natin yan dito sa kabila. Okay, so we have, given. So sabi doon, nag-run po yung person ng 100 meters. So dt, the total distance is 100 meters, while the total time traversed to cover that distance is 30 seconds. So, anong hinahanap natin? Okay, we are looking for the average speed. So, to solve that, we simply divide the distance by the time So that is 100 meters divided by 30 seconds. And that is equal to 3.33. Don't forget the unit, meters per second. Okay po, since we are only looking for the average speed, then there's no need for us to indicate the direction because average speed is a scalar. Next question. If a car moves at an average speed of 50 kilometers per hour, how far will it travel in 5 hours? O dito, you are given speed and then you are asked for the distance traveled. So let's try to solve that. So anong given natin? We are given an average speed of 50 kilometers per hour or 50 kph. We are also given a time of 5 hours. Okay, what are we looking for? We are looking for the distance traveled. So remember that the average speed is equal to distance traveled over time. So if we want distance traveled, then we can multiply both sides by the time para makancel po to. So, ang gagawin natin ay times tayo ng time both sides. So, therefore, dt or the total distance is equal to the average speed times time. And that is 50 kilometers per hour multiplied by 5 hours. Okay, and that is equal to 250 kilometers. Okay, so that's all for today. I hope that you have learned something about motion, specifically displacement, distance, speed, and velocity. See you in my next video. Bye!